All right. I apologize, everyone. For those watching at home, we should be live now. I was told my hair was a mess, so we had to do something about it. And yeah, no, I wish. We did have a little technical difficulty, of course, so I apologize for those watching at home. And I know my wife is, so hi, Sarah. She messaged me right away. Why isn't it on? So we are, I think, ready to go. We're going to start right over. We're going to start from square one, if that's okay. Just to make sure nobody misses anything. So welcome, of course. Today is September 21st, 2023. Welcome to Woodstock City Council. I do have a proclamation and we're going to read it again, if I may. Are we working? Yep. All right, we're good. We're good. Whereas Thursday, September 28, 2023 is Ontario's first Test Your Smoke Alarm Day. And whereas the 2022 Ontario lost 133 people to deadly fires, the highest number in over 20 years. And whereas many of these fires were found to have no working smoke alarm to provide early warnings and an increased opportunity to evacuate safely. And whereas continued education on the importance of monthly smoke alarm testing and fire evacuation planning can save lives and prevent injuries in communities, including our own municipality. Now, therefore, I, Jerry Accioni, Mayor of the City of Woodstock, do hereby proclaim September 28, 2023 as Test Your Smoke Alarm Day. Here in the City of Woodstock, dated this 21st day of September, 2023 in Woodstock, Ontario. Thank you, and I do have Chief Slager here to accept this. Thank you, Chief. Thank you. Okay, back to the agenda. Of course, we did not have any closed session tonight. Asking if anybody has any disclosure of pecuniary interest. Councillor Leatherbarrow.
I, Councillor Kate Leatherbarrow, declare the following potential direct pecuniary interest. Agenda item number, item 17, subject matter, Mayor's Task Force proposed funds to Operation Sharing. General nature of the interest, I am a sitting member of the board.
Thank you. Anyone else have any pecuniary interest or would like to declare it? Seeing none. Disclosure of new business. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Whereas there is an increased number of individuals experiencing homelessness in our community, and whereas providing a safe and accessible location for support services is crucial for these individuals in our community, and whereas Woodstock City Council established the Mayor's Social Wellbeing Task Force and a Community and Social Wellbeing Reserve Fund in 2023 in order to support initiatives that accelerate solutions to housing, mental health, safety, and addiction issues in our community. And whereas the County of Oxford has contributed $50,000 in funding to provide security services at Operation Sharing shelter locations in order to support the continued provision of support services. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Woodstock City Council approves $50,000 from the Community and Social Wellbeing Reserve Fund in order to support additional security services at Operation Sharing shelter locations, so services can continue to be provided in a safe and accessible manner.
Thank you. Matters arising for the minutes. Seeing none. The minutes. Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni, through you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Wismer Van Meer that the minutes of the regular meeting of Woodstock City Council held on September 7th, 2023 be adopted.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns? In that case, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Carried. Next up, we have additions to the agenda. Counselor Wheaton.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. Through you, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Schadenberg that the following three items be added to the agenda. Delegation item 8A, GSP Group, Hugh Handy and Theonis Manaharan. ZN 822-22 and OP 22-26-8, applications for official plan amendment and zone change for Cedar Creek Golf Course. Consideration of correspondence items 10A, Southgate Center 50/50 lottery sign display request. And consideration of correspondence item 10B, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing responding to the Housing Affordability Task Force recommendations.
Thank you. Any questions on those? All those in favor? None opposed. Carried. No presentations this evening, but of course we do have a delegation. At this time, I would ask Mr. Handy to come up from GSP Group. Again, my apologies, but thank you for waiting.
Thank you, Your Worship. Members of Council, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Hugh Handy, and I'm a Vice President and Land Use Planner at GSP Group. I'm here this evening along with members of our team, but also to express our regrets. Cheryl Schindrick couldn't be with us this evening, but we have Mario Giampetri, who is a principal in the front row with Geranium this evening, here to answer any questions along with our team. Evan Whitman, also on the application, is with me from GSP Group. And Em and Dan, part of our technical team, are here in the next row. I'm here this evening to be brief. You heard from Cheryl Schindrick and myself earlier in the week on these applications. The recommendation is before you this evening, which we hope that council will endorse. And again, we're here this evening. We're excited about the project overall that Geranium hopes to bring to the city. And we'd be happy to answer any questions if there's anything further this evening.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the delegation from council before we get down to the item? Seeing none, I will just say thank you very much.
Thank you.
GSP Group and Geranium always does come and is here present and available for questions and greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Next up, consideration of planning reports. Looking for a motion. Councillor Leatherborough.
That Woodstock City Council advise County Council that the city supports the application to amend the official plan, file number OP 22-26-8, submitted by Cedar Creek Golf Course Limited, Co. Woodstock Development, Inc. for lands legally described as Part Lot 20-21, Plan 1600, Part 3 and 9 of 41R-5666, City of Woodstock, to redesignate a portion of the subject lands to low-density residential to facilitate the development of two residential lots on the subject lands. And further, that Woodstock City Council approve in principle the zone change application, file number ZN 8-22-22, submitted by Cedar Creek Golf Course Limited, Co. Woodstock Developments, Inc., to rezone the lands to special residential zone 1 R1-SP, passive use open space OS1, and special active use open space OS2-SP to facilitate the development of two residential lots for single detached dwellings and parking area for the proposed city park. And further, that any comments received from the public were reviewed and considered before the decision was made in relation to this planning matter.
Thank you. I will look for a seconder at this point. Councillor Wheaton, Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you. These application will facilitate development of two new residential lots for single attached dwellings. The lots are part of a larger land holding that council also previously considered development applications at the south end at the corner of Juliana and Lantman Place for a 10-story apartment building. This is the next part of, or the remainder of that application. The intent is to develop the two lots for single detached dwellings and retain a parking lot for the rest of the lands which are proposed to be part of municipal park space. The number of zoning provisions are requested. Largely, they are to just rezone it to residential, to facilitate the proposed dwellings with some site-specific provisions for lot frontage depth and front yard and rear yard depths due to the irregular shape of the lots. The floodplain was identified through comprehensive studies, and the land subject to the floodplain, as well as a 3-meter buffer, will remain zoned passive use open space, which will not which will not allow any development in that area. Given that, planning staff are supportive of the applications and recommend to be approved.
Thank you. Any questions from council to the planner? Seeing none, then I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you. Carried. And I'll ask Mr. Gilbert that you speak first on the next one as well while you're up there. Then I'll call for the motion.
The next applications are applications for consent and minor variance to create a new residential infill lot on the west side of Norwich Avenue. The existing single detached dwelling will be on the retained lot. It's proposed to remain. There's a minor variance sought to recognize the presence of an existing porch on the side of that dwelling. So the minor variance is to allow for 1 foot setback instead of a 2-foot setback, which would normally be required. The city building department has reviewed the application and have no concerns. The both lot to be severed and retained will meet the provisions of the R2 zone, and staff recommend support of the application subject to the noted conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Kind of a motion on the floor. Councillor Wheaton, seconded by Councillor Lauder.
Great, settle in. That Woodstock Council advised the Land Division Committee that the city supports application file A2 18-08 submitted by 634524 Ontario Inc. for lands described as Plan 189, Lot 4, west side of Norwich Avenue in the city of Woodstock and municipally known as 34 Norwich Avenue as it relates to relief from section 5.1.9.1 table 2, permitted projections into required yards to reduce the minimum setback between projection and the new interior lot line created via consent file B23-244-8 from 0.6 meters to 0.3 meters, subject to the following condition: that the said relief apply only to recognize the location of exterior stairs existing as of the date of the decision of the Land Division Committee regarding consent file B23-44-8. The relief meets the 4 tests of minor variances set out in section 45(1) of the Planning Act as follows. The relief is a minor variance from the provision of the city's zoning bylaw. The relief is desirable for the use of the land. The relief maintains the general intent and purpose of the city's zoning bylaw. The relief maintains the intent and purpose of the official plan. And further, that Woodstock Council advised the Land Division Committee that the city supports the proposal to sever the subject lands subject to the following conditions. The owner provides confirmation of the location of the existing overhead or underground services installed to the retained and severed lots. Services cannot traverse the adjoining lots, and any conflicts must be redirected or an easement created. Any proposed easements shall be reviewed by the city of Woodstock. The owner shall agree in writing to satisfy all requirements, financial and otherwise, of the city of Woodstock regarding the installation of services and drainage facilities. The owner will be required to enter into a severance agreement for the severed parcel with the city of Woodstock. The agreement will be registered on first title by the owner. All structures on the severed parcel shall be removed to the satisfaction of the city of Woodstock Building Department. The owner shall install a 3-meter wide driveway to serve the retained lot to the satisfaction of the city of Woodstock Building Department. The owner shall submit a recent survey to confirm the proposed lot size to the satisfaction of the city of Woodstock, and the owner shall agree in writing to satisfy all requirements, financial and otherwise, to the city of Woodstock and to the county of Oxford regarding the installation of services and drainage facilities if required. And the owner shall obtain a letter provided by the city, by the clerk of the city of Woodstock advising the secretary treasurer of the Land Division Committee that all requirements of the city of Woodstock have been complied with.
Thank you. What if I told you we had to do that again? No. Bad joke this evening. Any questions on this application from council? Good job. None? Or comments? No? Okay, seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. It is carried. So just for those watching at home, just want to go to show we're trying to do so much more with the pieces of properties we have here in the city and welcome more ideas and ways that we can do in filling more, especially when they do comply and work with the land that's there. Recognizing that some of us don't necessarily like the ideas of some of this in our areas, but we have to do it. People need homes. So thank you. Next up, we have consideration of correspondence. Thank you very much, everyone. Safe drive home. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council approves the request from Southgate Center to post signs promoting their 50-50 fundraising lottery from September 29th to November 17th, 2023, subject to staff approval.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Wismer Van Meer, discussion? Or questions of staff? Seeing none. All those in favor? None opposed. And I should say for the record, those watching at home, we do have Councillor Tate away this evening. So anybody curious? Next up, we have 10B. Thank you. Councillor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself, Councillor Leatherborough, that Woodstock City Council received the correspondence from the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, responding to the Housing Affordability Task Force's recommendations as information.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder to that? Councillor Schadenberg. Discussion? Councillor Leatherborough.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to ask staff, or yourself, Mr. Mayor, or the CAO, just so the public are aware of what this correspondence means and what our next steps are, given that there are 74 unique recommendations. So any, just like an overview of what next steps will be based on this correspondence. Thanks.
Sure. I'm going to answer that one at least the best way I can, if that's okay. For those curious at home, this is something I wanted to share with all of council. This is a letter that we received from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, asking me as head of council to answer 74, not really questions, they are task force recommendations, asking if I would support or oppose each one of those items. There's a lot of here that there's a lot of questions, let's just say. Staff and we've all been discussing, and we were talking that I really want to know how council feels about a lot of these as well. So I am asking that everyone go through it themselves as councillors and submit back to me what if you would oppose or support each one of the items, recognizing we only have the information that's in this document. And then list the top 5 in your opinion of those recommendations from the task force, if you may. If something is not there that you think is important, feel free to put that as your top 5 as well. I would certainly welcome that if you think there is something else more important. At this point, if this is submitted, again, by myself, ultimately by October 16th, it is one of the ways we would be eligible for the funding under the Building Faster Fund, the $1.2 billion earlier announced at AMO. Okay. Does that answer your question, Councillor Leatherborough? Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Lauder.
This is not a question. It's just that I'm happy that you shared this. I've gone through those questions and there's things there that I don't understand that I will be coming to staff for. So probably the rest of us will too. So you better put some time aside for us. But no, I am happy to see this, and I'm glad that you gave us the time that it didn't happen. We didn't have to have it in here tonight. So thanks very much for that.
No problem. And just for everybody at home, I did ask for 2 weeks from now to have this response back from council. Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, thanks. Maybe just a comment, but probably a question for my second part of the statement is, it's interesting that they talk about the possibility. I know it's one of these things where there's a support or an oppose column on this, but that there could be a possibility, for example, that the city of Woodstock could expand outside of its own boundaries and still have servicing from the city of Woodstock to a subdivision outside of its own boundaries. So I don't have to tell you how I would vote on that, but the one question that is curious because of the two-tier system we have here versus what we see. And I think this is something that for people at home might want to just think about and look at the list of 74 recommendations too that's on our agenda. The one that I question a little bit is just as far as clarification goes is limit municipalities from requesting or hosting additional public meetings beyond those that are required under the Planning Act. So I'm just considering how Oxford County fits in that scenario, because in theory, we've had a planning meeting on Monday and then we've passed a couple of severances and information here tonight. But of course, that same information now goes to a public meeting as part of a county council meeting and a look at them passing the same severances that we've passed here. So what kind of, maybe our CAO can explain that as well, because every municipality has their different procedures, and everyone has a different sort of a format or a setup of their government, how it works locally. Not completely different, but everyone's got their innuendos and differences. But how that could affect here would we therefore not have to take tonight's severances and bring them to the county, or would they still have to go there because they've got the official plan?
Your worship, I believe that's the intention, through to Councillor Schadenberg. I believe that's the intention of the recommendation from the Housing Affordability Task Force and reducing the number of statutory public meetings to the minimum that would be required. I think if you look at the municipalities, the larger municipalities that were in the first tranche of housing commitment and housing pledges, they were largely GTA-based municipalities who had planning departments and regional governments. And so they were similar to the planning approval authorities that exist here in Oxford County. And I believe the province was taking action to transfer planning approval authorities from those regional governments to the area municipalities. And of course, then those municipalities receive strong mayor powers. So it aligns with strong mayor powers in the sense that what's the point of granting strong mayor powers if the municipality doesn't have the jurisdictional authority to approve the planning applications, which achieves the provincial housing priority.
Continue. Councillor
Yeah,
Schadenberg?
what I think is a CAO, thanks from your mayor back through the CAO, David Curry, just sort of proves the complexities of what the exercise is here through the province of Ontario. And even if you used to sit on city council or are currently on city council, if you were to look at the list of 74 recommendations, there's a lot of chin scratching on that list for sure.
Yes. Any other comments or questions? Okay, well, all I would ask that when you're speaking with staff, remember we are working through the answers that we have, which are not a lot, unfortunately, not as much as I would like. And hence why I'm going to be relying on council to give me your input as well before I submit my answers. Okay, or responses to this. Okay, thank you. Need the vote. All those in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. Next up, staff presentations. We have the asset management analyst and the asset management survey results. Welcome. Thank you.
Good evening, council. My name is Basil Groom. I'm the city's asset management analyst. And I'm here today or tonight to speak about the feedback that we received from the survey that we ran from April 24th until May 19th of this year. So tonight's presentation will cover survey that asks questions regarding the non-core service areas, such as our corporate facilities, our recreation, community, and culture service areas. This is our second asset management survey that we ran this year. The first one that was conducted in November of 2022, and the presentation was in March, covered our core assets, such as our transportation service area and stormwater. So jumping into it, the first question we asked was, do you believe that you receive good value for your tax dollars, including user fees? 49% responded yes, and 51% responded no. Majority of the feedback that we received on this question was that respondents felt more should be spent towards recreational facilities and spaces. So I would say that the results of this question don't necessarily paint the overall picture. So we'll dive a little bit deeper into it in the following questions. So the next question we asked was, do you feel city services are equitable, accessible, accurate, and reliable and personal? So this question was multiple choice, and it gave the respondents the ability to select more than one. Respondents felt that the city was 77% accessible, with equitable and accurate and reliable coming in second, 45%, 44%, and 9% felt services were personal. Next question we asked was, do you experience barriers or difficulties in accessing city services? 26% responded yes, 74% responded no. So nearly 3 out of 10 residents experience barriers or difficulties in accessing city services. Most respondents indicated difficulty in accessing services online or spoke to the availability of the services as the main barrier. So the next question we asked was, would you support an increase in additional funding to improve levels of service? 44% responded yes, 47% responded yes, 31% responded no, and 22% responding unsure or don't know. And comments and feedback that were in this question were regarding reallocation of funding, more efficiency in resources, and increasing taxes. So the next question we asked was, what options do you believe the city should pursue to pay for these services? So this question ties into the previous question, and it gave respondents a few options to select. 50% of respondents supported an increase in user fees for programs used by residents. 14% increased taxes, 12% supported cut services, and 25% responded that they were unsure or don't know. The next question we asked, so what is your overall satisfaction with the services the city provides? 69% responded that they were satisfied to very satisfied, and 30% responded they were dissatisfied to very dissatisfied. So the next question we asked was in relation to the respondents' history within Woodstock. So more than 73% of respondents have lived in Woodstock for more than 10 years, with the average length of time being 24 years. As well as we asked if you lived in Woodstock for less than 2 years, where you've moved from or where you've come from, just to get a better understanding of where residents are arriving from, so we can understand what services they're accustomed to. So Oxford County, Waterloo region, the Greater Toronto area, Stratford, Kingston, and Windsor. So going into our corporate facilities, so this was administrative buildings, engineering, public works, and transit. So City Hall, engineering office, the Enviro Depot, and transit. First question we asked was, how satisfied are you with the overall current physical conditions of the corporate facilities within the city? 86% responded between satisfied and very satisfied, with 14% voicing dissatisfaction. Generally, how satisfied are you with the current availability of services within these facilities? Again, 77% responded with satisfaction, 16% were dissatisfied to very dissatisfied, and 7% indicated they do not access services from these facilities. The next question we asked was, how satisfied are you with the current physical conditions of the bus shelters within the city? 72% indicated that they were satisfied to very dissatisfied. 28% indicated dissatisfaction. Next question we asked was, how satisfied are you with the current accessibility of the bus shelters within the city? 68% were satisfied, to 32% dissatisfied. And then for the last question for the corporate facilities was, we asked, how satisfied are you with the current physical conditions of the buses within the city? 92% were satisfied to very satisfied, and 8% were dissatisfied to very dissatisfied. So then our next service area was our recreation, community, and culture. So starting off with recreation, so that covered our parks, our playground equipment, Cohen Park Sportsplex, the Civic Center Arena, and Southside Aquatic Center. So first question we asked was, generally, how satisfied are you with the current conditions of the recreational facilities within the city? 67% indicated that they were satisfied to very satisfied. 30% indicated dissatisfied to very dissatisfied, and 3% indicated they do not use services from these facilities. Next question we asked was, generally, how satisfied are you with the current availability of services within these facilities? 61% indicated satisfaction. 33% indicated dissatisfaction, and 6% indicated they do not access services from these facilities. How satisfied are you with the current conditions of the sports fields within the city? 58% indicated satisfaction, 20% were dissatisfied, and 22% do not use services from these facilities. Next question we asked was, how satisfied are you with the current conditions of the parks within the city? 81% indicated satisfaction to very satisfied, 17% were dissatisfied to very dissatisfied, and 2% indicated they do not use these services. Next question we asked was, how satisfied are you with the current conditions of the playground equipment within the city? 55% were satisfied, 13% were dissatisfied, and 32% do not use these facilities. Next question we asked was, how satisfied are you with the current conditions of the Civic Center Arena? 53% were satisfied to very satisfied, 47% were dissatisfied to very dissatisfied. Next question was, how satisfied are you with the current availability of services within the Civic Center Arena? 30% were indicated satisfaction, 32% indicated dissatisfaction, and 38% indicated they do not use this facility. How satisfied are you with the current conditions of Cohen Park Sportsplex? 62% indicated satisfaction, 10% were dissatisfied to very dissatisfied, and 28% do not use this facility. How satisfied are you with the current availability of services within the Cohen Park Sportsplex? 53% indicated that they were satisfied to very satisfied, 17% were dissatisfied to very dissatisfied, and 30% said, I do not use this facility. How satisfied are you with the current conditions of Southside Aquatic Center? 56% were satisfied to very satisfied, 21% were dissatisfied to very dissatisfied, and 23% indicated they do not use this facility. How satisfied are you with the current availability of services within Southside Aquatic Center? 52% were satisfied to very satisfied, 24% were dissatisfied to very dissatisfied, and 24% indicated they do not use this facility. So now going into our community service area. So that covered our community complex and Southgate Center. So the first question we asked was, how satisfied are you with the current conditions of community facilities within the city? 66% were satisfied to very satisfied, and 17% were dissatisfied to very dissatisfied. And 17% indicating they do not use these facilities. Next question we asked was, how satisfied are you with the current availability of services within these facilities? 64% indicated satisfied to very satisfied, 19% indicated dissatisfied to very dissatisfied, and 17% do not use this facility. So then how satisfied are you with the current conditions of Southgate Center? 27% indicated satisfaction, 3% were dissatisfied to very dissatisfied, and 70% indicated they do not use this facility. So then we asked, how satisfied are you with the current conditions of Reeves Community Complex? 24% indicated satisfaction, or sorry, 64% indicated satisfaction. And 6% were dissatisfied. 30% indicated that you do not use this facility. How satisfied are you with the current availability of services within the Reeves Community Complex? 59% indicated satisfaction, 6% dissatisfaction, and 35% indicated they do not use this facility. So then going into our cultural facilities that covered our Woodstock Art Gallery, the Woodstock Library, and the Woodstock Museum. First question was, how satisfied are you with the current conditions of the cultural facilities within the city? 56% indicated satisfaction, 8% dissatisfaction, and 36% indicating they do not use these facilities. How satisfied are you with the current availability of services within these facilities? 55% indicated satisfaction, 9% were dissatisfied, and 36% do not use. How satisfied are you with the current conditions of the Woodstock Art Gallery? 54% indicated satisfaction, 8% were dissatisfied, and 38% indicated they do not use this facility. How satisfied are you with the current availability of services within the Woodstock Art Gallery? 55% indicated satisfaction, 6% dissatisfaction, and 39% indicated they do not use this facility. How satisfied are you with the current conditions of the Woodstock Library? 80% indicated that they were satisfied, 7% dissatisfaction, and 13% saying that they do not use this facility. How satisfied are you with the current availability of services within the Woodstock Library? Again, 81% were satisfied, 5% were dissatisfied, and 14% do not use this facility. How satisfied are you with the current conditions of the Woodstock Museum? 44% indicated that they were satisfied, 9% with dissatisfaction, and 47% indicating they do not use this facility. How satisfied are you with the current availability of services within the Woodstock Museum? 43% indicated that they were satisfied, 5% indicated dissatisfaction, and 52% indicated they do not use this facility. So the next steps and the overall results of the survey were positive. It indicated that residents were satisfied or they expressed satisfaction with city services. So this is going to help with the asset management plan, the asset management department, in the sense that it's helping build a baseline to build from. So the next steps include continuing to work with departments on building out levels of service metrics, continue to expand on current levels of service for all city assets using responses from both surveys. The asset management plan, the second iteration, is due July 1st, 2024. So that's mandated by provincial regulation. The first asset management plan covered our core assets. So that was our road network, our bridges and culverts, and our stormwater. The second iteration now has to cover the remaining assets, our non-core assets, so our buildings, our recreational facilities, our corporate fleet, et cetera. So this is going to expand on building up those current levels of service that we have on the core, building them up for the remaining assets. And then future engagement, continue to engage the public on perceived levels of service. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Agram. Any questions? Councillor Leatherborough.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for the presentation. It was interesting to go through. I'm just curious, how many people participated? If you can share that data, roughly how many people?
Through the chair to the councillor, we had a sample size of 119 respondents.
Continue if you like.
Thank you. So just to add, I do think for the most part, it's positive. And to see satisfied to very satisfied. One negative I do find is it was unsettling to see that 70% of those that participate in this survey do not use Southgate Center. Especially with the high bill that we have passed through, but nevertheless, it's a baseline. And the positive side is that I'm very happy to see the feedback, and also being a public library board member. That's just great feedback to take back to the board as well too. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni, through you. In addition to how many respondents were there, was there a requirement to answer every question? Is my first question. My second question is, what was the breakdown of demographics? Because that might explain that if only 2 people out of 119 people were of the age that might use Southgate Center, might explain why so many people answered that they don't use that facility. So was there a requirement, and what was the demographic breakdown?
So through the chair to the counselor, there wasn't a mandatory question per se, so you didn't have to answer every single question. So there were some questions that were skipped. But I did try to kind of take that into account when displaying the results, because it skews the results one way or another if you skip a question. In terms of the demographic, we didn't ask gender or age.
Thank you. Counselor Shanberg.
Yeah, thanks. From the mayor to Mr. Agram. I guess my question would be, how much prompting did you have to do to try to get an answer from some people? Because, for example, when you talk about services that are available at a athletic facility, we'll call it that, or a sports facility in the city of Woodstock, someone, for example, might be completely discouraged that there's no flag football for 12-year-olds. And they may be so upset with that they vote, no, that we don't like the services that are there, without realizing that this coming winter, flag football for 12-year-olds is returning. But having said that, that's a user group that you're relying upon and not the city of Woodstock. In this case, the Wolverines football program was supplying that program to people as a user group using the facilities of the city of Woodstock. And I would use the same thing for, say, competitive swimming or other available things. People might say, well, the services in the city of Woodstock aren't good, but sometimes it's not necessarily the city of Woodstock's fault either. So did you have to prompt answers out of people? Were there specific things that kind of, as they say, jumped off the page? I would think of another one like short track speed skating or something like that on an Olympic size ice facility. Did somebody say complain about that? Just wondering about specific services.
Through the chair to the counselor. So some of the feedback, there were comments in regards to increasing ice time, increasing specific sports events in these facilities. I would say that it's harder to engage people who are satisfied because if you take the sense, if you have a bad experience, you're more likely to voice your opinion as opposed to if you have a good experience. So I would say it's in terms of prompting residents. We did run campaigns on social media with the help of communications and marketing. And we did put in the What's on Woodstock magazine an advertisement in regards to the second survey. But in terms of the comments, they're pretty consistent across the board that they were looking for more facilities or more services within those facilities.
Thank you. Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just kind of maybe a comment and a question. It is a little disheartening to see it's only 119 people in a population of like 50,000 plus. You know, we have a lot of people that have a lot to say and have a lot of comments, and this is a great opportunity for people to do that, is to participate in surveys like this and have your say. And if there's something you feel like that's missing or something you want council and a city to work on, this is a prime opportunity to do these. So I was really hoping the number was going to be higher than that, but that's not at any person's fault in here. So thank you, to everyone that worked very hard on this. Just a quick question about the comments. I know I did participate in the survey myself, so 119, I guess, is me. The comments and such that were made by people, is that accessible for us to have a look at? Are we able to read if there was feedback, what was said, maybe suggested? Is that available for us to have a review of at any time?
Through the chair to the counselor, I can make it available to you. So I can send it to counselors if you're interested in seeing the feedback.
I think we'd all agree with that. Just a head nod was yes, please. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Counselor Lauder.
Thank you for the report. It's quite interesting, but what surprises me is so many that I do not use this facility. It seems such a high number and only 119 respondents. That is a lot of work for 119 respondents. I think that's really disgraceful of our people in Woodstock that do have, there's lots of people have say and disappointed with things so I'm surprised that there was just that many that responded. So that's just my comment to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Counselor Wheaton.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni, through you. You mentioned earlier in your presentation about barriers to accessing information from the city, and you mentioned the website in particular. I think our website is very well designed. I think it's a great layout. It's fairly easy to use. I think one of the challenges is in the municipal world, we tend to use municipal speak, and the average person doesn't know what those keywords are to search for. We call it winter control. Everyone else calls it snowplow. And so those are some of the examples that I think that if we can, even whether it's in SEO or in the background, build in some of those words, that makes it a lot easier for people to get around, just knowing how to target their verbiage to get to the answer that they're looking for. That's not on you. That's not me giving you direction. It's just a comment that might break down some of those barriers, because accessibility wise, it is a very accessible website.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Well, I just want to say thank you very much. I echo a lot of what's said. Councillor Wismer Van Meer, I think, said it best if I were to quote somebody. Though it's a little disappointing when I heard the numbers. I think we got to take the information that was provided and base our decisions based on that. The amount of people that do not use some of those services is surprising. But again, in relation to looking at what was so positive, I think we can definitely see some of those trends of who was responding when you have such a smaller number. But we'll continue on. Thank you for this information, and on to the next one. Thank you very much. This evening, we do not have a mayor's report or a counselor. Sorry. Oh, sorry. It's been a long day. What's that, seconders? Can you move Councillor Wismer Van Meer?
That Woodstock City Council received the asset management survey results presentation as information.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Schattenberg. All those in favor? So moved. Thank you. Now I'll move on. No mayor's reports, no councillor reports, but we do have some department reports. Administrative services, statement of revenue and expenditure, looking for a motion. Councillor Schattenberg.
The Woodstock City Council received the statement of revenue and expenditure and the statement of capital expenditures for the period ending August 31st, 2023 as information.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion? Councillor Schattenberg.
I know we have our special events coordinator here tonight, Kristen Broadhagen. So I did chat with her briefly on the phone this afternoon because there's so many of the so-called summer events that are kind of now in the books, as they would say, including the Victoria Day weekend. But if you looked at sort of page 43 on the revenue page, it's really astounding to see for actual year to date is so much higher than what the projected budget revenue would have been for this year, 2023. That's actually 3 times the amount. And Cowapalooza and Canada Day have done quite well as well. So first of all, I want to congratulate Kristen Broadhagen for that, because some of it is sponsorship revenues, but maybe there's a comment that she could make if she's willing to come up to the microphone and explain maybe why Victoria Day revenues did so well, 3 times the amount of that was originally projected in our budget for 2023.
She is certainly looking willing to come forward, so please. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Your worship, through the councillor's question. So yes, as was mentioned, our revenues were very successful, but I'm very happy with how everything went this summer for our season of events. It was very exciting for the city of Woodstock, and I think a lot of our residents really enjoyed the many events we have throughout the year. So in regards to the revenues, Victoria Day was very successful with our contract with the Midway Company. We receive a percentage of sales, and this year's successes really contributed to the beautiful weather that we had throughout the weekend for the 4 days, which increased the attendance, as well as a successful marketing campaign. These are just a few of the reasons. It was a very busy weekend, and then we ended it with the Victoria Day Parade. As well, usually in the past, we've received $4,000 for the Canadian Heritage Grant. This year, we received $10,000, which was able to offer more attractions at the Canada Day event. With Calpalooza, the sponsorship that's listed, there's still a few more to come through, so that will increase as well in the next statement. And the Ontario Cultural Attractions Fund we received for Calpalooza, which was very exciting. It is by every other year, so we were thankful for this year. There is a payback percentage for that grant, so we will receive about $9,000 for that. With that being said, the revenues and expenditures will balance at the end of the year. The money was just put towards the events and offering more. And of course, events, like everything, are expensive. So no, not expensive, sorry, but we definitely balance the revenues with the expenditures. Any other questions?
Any other questions from council? He got off okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions to any other staff members? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, not so much a question, just a general comment. It's really nice to see, I think things are trending back to some normalcy. I look at the camp registration, I might sound like a broken record, but to see that up over 100,000 from what was budgeted, I think is fantastic. I think that's something that should be celebrated, not just on the level of what was brought in revenue wise, but clearly young people had a good time. And I mentioned it last month. I spoke to many families that benefited from the camps through the city this year, and they had absolute raving reviews. So I think that that's a lot of credit to everyone that worked hard on those camps, but just even swim instructions and that we're seeing those dollars go back up above what was budgeted. So I think that's a fantastic trend to see, and I hope that continues.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Well, I'd just like to say thanks staff for all their work of trying to keep within those budgets during some of these times right now with costs rising, and certainly some things are far more than anticipated. So respecting their budgets and keeping things within as best as we can, or bringing them forward for council's decision if they are a fair bit more, is greatly appreciated. And with that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Received his information. Thank you. Next up, looking for a motion on elimination of the vacant unit rebate program. Councillor Leatherborough, seconded by Councillor Lauder.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council approve the elimination of the vacant unit rebate program effective with the 2024 taxation year, and further that the necessary bylaw be passed.
Thank you. Discussion? Councillor Leatherborough.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I was just hoping for the public's benefit if the administrative services could speak to this great report that I am very excited about, but I think you'll do a better job explaining what's in this report. Thanks.
Your worship, through the councillor, councillor Leather. Sorry. So this program came into effect in 2001. And it's been problematic in various ways since its inception, particularly the fact that it's a retroactive application. And so we receive an application in February, the year following the year that it applies to. So if it's early in the year, January, get one this year for January 2022, it's hard to know and verify if in fact the vacancy occurred, or if the dates are right and if the area is correct. So that's one of the major issues with it. We do, as a rule, if we notice places that are vacant or if there's something, something for lease or if we see properties that are vacant, we will take pictures and try to document in our files so that we know when the application comes in whether or not the information is valid. But it's not a perfect science by any stretch. The other thing is it was really implemented to be a temporary measure for a little bit of tax relief for owners that were looking to rent their properties. And what we did find was there's some properties in town that we go back, they got these rebates in excess of 10, even up to 15 years in a row, and they've just sat vacant. So the flip side with that is that as the property sits vacant, it deteriorates, then they'll put in an application for reduction in their assessment, may get it because the property is not as valuable as it was, and then do a vacancy rebate as well. So it's almost a double dipping of the system. So there's, for a variety of reasons, we're not that happy with the program. In 2017, the legislation changed and we were able to opt out, but county council at the time, and at the time it was an upper tier decision, opted to do this, implement a limit of 5 years. And that went back to 2001. So then that added another layer of record keeping in that we had over 900 properties because it applies to any commercial and industrial property to track to make sure that they were now eligible, that they hadn't had 5-year rebate. So just one more problem that they added on top. At this point, there could be people like new owners that are coming in that if they anticipate getting a vacancy rebate while they look for a tenant, it may well be that their property's already been granted 5 years of rebate. They won't get one and they won't know that until they buy the property. So that's another disincentive, I guess, for an owner. So anyway, when it all came about in 2017, when they made the change, MTE, which is the tax consulting company, they did some work on how many opted out immediately, how many phased out, et cetera. And it was more than half of the property of the municipalities at that time did some kind of a change to the program. And as they made this change in 21 to turn it into a lower tier decision, there's been a considerable number more that have joined the opt-out camp. So I just, at this point, thought it was time to bring it to council to give you the opportunity. We have limited uptake on it anymore, and it's just time to have council find out what was going on with it and make a decision on how we want to move forward.
Thank you, Councillor Leatherborough.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for that. And when I express that I'm excited for it, I just think that this aligns with council's strategic priorities in the downtown. I myself have lived here for 10 years and vacant buildings have always been a topic of conversation. And again, just thank you for the thorough report. I'm not great at numbers, but I understand this quite clearly. And I did note that in 2017, Ingersoll and Norwich opted out. So at 2023, I think it served its time. So thank you for the work on this.
Thank you, Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni, through you. Based on what I heard in your description, if someone was actively promoting their property for sale or for lease, and yet it still sat vacant, would they have qualified for the rebate under the program as it sits right now?
Your worship, through the council's question, yes, as long as it was being marketed for lease. Just a sign in the window for lease, whatever, then it would qualify, yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? I'd just like to say that this is one that I definitely agree with as well. I think that as Councillor Leatherborough mentioned, this is a topic that comes up quite often about vacant buildings and stores, and any help we can to make sure they're filled and entice them, I would greatly appreciate it. So, and with that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. And just for those watching, if they are affected by this, you're okay for 2023. This comes into effect as of 2024. Okay. Next up, engineering. Market building interior renovations tender award. Looking for a motion? Counselor Lauder,
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council authorize $467,000 increase to be funded by the Reserve for Capital Projects for the Market Building interior renovations. And further, that Woodstock City Council award the tender for the Market Building interior renovations to Trigon Construction Management in the amount of $1,495,357.58, inclusive of HST.
thank you. Looking for a seconder on that motion? Counselor Shattenberg, discussion or questions? Counselor Shattenberg?
I don't really have any concerns as to how the 467,000 or the additional monies would be funded, but maybe my question would be to the CIO, and that would be to have a comment on that when 453 Dundas is sold, who's then going to be a sort of a tenant in the market building, a small business center. Would that money automatically be allocated to kind of replenish the reserve for capital projects account?
Your worship, to Councillor Shattenberg, that would be the intention, that the proceeds of any sale of 453 Dundas would be a contribution to the reserve for capital projects, which has the effect of offsetting the additional funding required. 453 was purchased by the city for the sole purpose of housing the small business enterprise program. It was renovated for that purpose. The city has always underutilized that building in the sense that the apartments on the second and third floor were in very poor condition, and when we went to renovate, we just simply stripped the units down to the skeletal frame of the building and left it at that. So the second and third floor have never been used. There's an opportunity for 3 residential tenancies in those floors. The city generally doesn't want to be a residential landlord. We prefer that to be the domain of the private sector. And so this property will be vacant with the relocation of the small business staff to the market center when the renovations are complete. And the question of what should the city do with 453 will continue.
Counselor Leatherborough.
Through your worship, so I'm just wondering that, is there an action that we should discuss of declaring it as surplus at this meeting? Just so I'm clear on how I read the report.
So your worship, Councillor Leatherbarrow, that would be our recommendation at this point, is that as staff, we don't see a need currently for 453 Dundas, nor do we believe that we can fully utilize all floors of that building as the owner of this building. So I think if we want to optimize the use of the facility, it's best to let it go. And if council wishes to move in that direction, there is some language in the report with respect to the declaration of surplus of this property. If council so moves that, staff will then obtain an opinion of value or an appraisal of value of this property, and then list it for sale at that price. And any offers received would be brought back to council for approval. So this is really a question for council. If anyone has any thoughts of how we can fully utilize this building, wonderful. At this point, we as staff don't believe there is.
Continue.
So further to that, I personally think that it makes good sense the way it is written here, and for all of the reasons that I am often approached by various businesses looking for space downtown. So in that case, would I be able to make a friendly amendment that says additionally that city council declare the property known as 453 Dundas surplus to the needs of the city, and then we would discuss it further?
I'm certainly okay with that because I believe that would be the smart way to go in the future anyways. I'm just not unsure how council feels if we want to do that right away or not, because this can certainly come up at any given time. We're a little ways away from the actual construction, so they're going to be using the building right now, but I guess I'll ask the mover and seconder if there's any problems. Councillor Lauder, you made the motion, seconded by Councillor Schattenberg. Would you be okay with that?
Yes, it's okay with me because I do really feel that we should go ahead and sell it at the point in time when the small business is ready to move over. It will be on the record that we are going to have it declared as surplus. So then it can go ahead at any other in the future. So I have no reason for that.
All right, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Schattenberg.
I'm fine with it. It was something I was gonna suggest as well. It's a good idea for sure.
Okay. Well, if none opposed, then we'll take that into consideration. Maybe what I would ask then, just for those watching at home, Councillor Lauder, I would ask you if you have that handy, if you can borrow that from Councillor Leatherborough, just because you made that initial motion. If you add that on, then we'll vote on that. Okay, thank you.
Need to read the whole motion right in the beginning. Okay. That Woodstock City Council authorized a 467,000 increase to be funded by the reserve for capital projects for the market building interior renovations. And further that City Council award the tender for the market building interior renovations to Dragcon Construction Management in the amount of $1,495,357.58, inclusive of HST, and that City Council declare the property known as 453 Dundas surplus to the needs of the city.
Thank you. The seconder, you're okay with that? Councillor Schattenberg seconded. Thank you. Any further discussion? Or questions to staff, of course? Or a call the vote. Okay, seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Carried as amended. Thank you. Nothing from cultural services tonight. Parks and Recreation, we do have special events coordinator. Looking for a motion, Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council authorize pre-approval in the 2024 revenue fund budget to convert the special events coordinator to a full-time position effective January 1st, 2024. And after I have a seconder, I'll ask for Mr. Connors to speak to this.
No problem. Do we have a seconder on the motion? Councillor Leatherborough? Councillor Lauder, go ahead.
Through the mayor to Mr. Connors, could you just speak to this request, please?
Your worship, through to the councillor's question. This position currently sits in the budget as a 9-month full-time position. We're asking for it to be extended by 3 months, so it becomes a year-round position. I'd normally wait for the operating budget process to put this forward. However, with the departure of the aquatic supervisor, who was the person most responsible of PMR for our migration system of our bookings and registration process, we feel that there's more management that's going to be needed to get us to the finish line so that we have a smooth transition for the public, so they don't notice any hiccups. The other piece that would be involved is because the two systems don't talk to each other, we need to migrate people's credits from one system to the next, and that's going to be a heavy lift as well. So that's the why we're asking for it outside of the normal queue. We're also asking for it because we believe that there is a need for this position to be full-time. That was going to be the plan going forward. Had the aquatic supervisor not left us. And yeah, that's kind of the rationale behind it.
Thank you for that explanation.
Counselor Wheaton.
Thank you, Mayor Ascione, through you, to Mr. Connors. So I think what I heard you say is it's a 3-month extension, but that's not a contract. That becomes a full-time, year-round, rollover, constant, ongoing position. And that the primary focus is, and the demand right now is the need of migrating the information over from one system to the other. Once that migration is done, will there be enough other work to justify the full-time position?
Your worship, through to the councilor's question, yes, there will be enough work for this position. In the past, and this is before the current manager of special events, the special events department was backfilled by several other folks that had held roles in that. It wasn't declared as special events, but they did a lot of the heavy lifting for this position. Now that special events has grown, both in terms of the numbers of people at the events and also the additions to the event sponsorship, city sponsorship, in-kind donation requests, and new and external booking processes. Any group over 100 now falls into the special events, as well as this position deals a lot with vendors and volunteers, which is something that is becoming more and more a bigger lift regarding staff time to get those things coordinated properly. So those are all things that are on this position that would require this position to be a full-time 12-month-a-year job.
Okay. Any other questions? Counselor Leatherborough.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to Mr. Connors for answering my questions today. And for the data piece of this role, I jokingly commented how I've been advertising every family to book their birthday party at Cowan Sports Park. So I'm sure that can keep them busy, but I do just want to say, in terms of special events, I think that they've been great. There's proof in the pudding, so to speak. But also as our city grows, it's excellent for residents, but it's also such a huge tourism draw. So I do very much understand this request and support it, and very much looking forward to more events ahead with increased numbers, as well as hopefully for all of Oxford County, as well as outside of Oxford County. I think the Sam Roberts band was a bit of a draw as well. So yeah, just some feedback on how I feel about this request, and I do support it.
Thank you. Other questions of council or comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Next up, we have pickleball courts. I'd like to make this Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council receives the report regarding pickleball courts as information.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Leatherborough. Discussion. Councillor Leatherborough.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I will ask Mr. Connors to speak to this report as well, just for the public's benefit, but also I do have some questions based on what's in the report.
Your worship, through to the councilor's question. Yes, the pickleball report here is dealing specifically with the delegation that came last week as far as the questions or the opportunities that they believed would make sense going forward. I have laid out these 3 opportunities that were brought up, which is creating a 6 court pickleball court at Park Row Park, pickleball at the Civic Arena, and then changing the lines to make a hybrid tennis / pickleball court at Brompton. So those are are detailed in this report as far as the strengths and weaknesses of each suggestion. Also in this report is not just outdoor pickleball, but from a city perspective, we look at it as pickleball courts in time. The city has invested quite heavily in pickleball as in other court sports, but it's been more indoor sports right now with the conversion of golf hall into golf gym and the ability to offer more hours of pickleball during the fall, winter, and spring.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Leatherborough.
Through you, your worship, thanks. So just so I'm understanding properly, the action is to potentially receive as information, but what piqued my ears, or my eyes, I should say, was the 2 hybrid tennis pickleball courts. There obviously is a price tag attached to it. So if the action is to receive as information, would that be something that would come forward at budget time? Or I guess I was just wanting clarity on next steps from everything that you have put together.
Your worship, through the councilor's question, currently in the capital plan, there is, we are going to be redoing the Brompton courts. So to have pickleball lines put in would be, there won't be any price that would be addition if council passes this renewal of the tennis courts. They could easily say, or you could say right now, make them hybrid courts and there would be no cost. The only caveat in this report is that there might be a tennis group come forward and say, you know, I can't play tennis now because the courts have more people playing on them because they're hybrid courts. But that is certainly, out of all the options, that is certainly the cheapest, and it would make those courts, I am certain it would make those courts a lot more used. It just might come at some tennis players that would like to see a little bit more time, but that is 100% up to this council.
Thank you for that, Mr. Connors. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Shanberg.
Thanks, your mayor's again through Brian Connors. I did like the fact that under the comments, the first line you said is the 2021 recreational facility needs study recommended constructing 3 pickleball courts at Cowan Fields, and that was tentatively to be completed by 2025. Maybe my question is similar to the one that Kate Leatherborough just presented. If that wanted to be moved up to 2024, first of all, is that possible based on servicing in that park? But again, that would be something that would have to be decided at budget time.
Your worship, through to the councilor's question, it would be very difficult because the park still needs to be serviced and flattened. However, there is a new park coming online in 2024, which would be probably a very good park to put pickleball courts in. This would be a park along the Sliver Trail. It would be the next park over from Shanna Larson in the new development. There is scheduled for at this park to be an athletic pad. It's just written as athletic pad. So that could be basketball, tennis, or pickleball. And if you know, council deems that pickleball should be moved forward, that could be what is put in those. We could put 3 in there. I wouldn't recommend any more than 3, just because it is a neighborhood park and we'll run into the same problems that Park Row Park would have if it had multiple more courts as far as how busy it is and what the service level of a neighborhood park can be.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments before I call the vote? No, I'd just like to thank the delegation, of course. I was here at last meeting. Love to see the public out and telling us thoughts and what they'd like to see, and those kind of numbers is fantastic. So and looking forward to budget decisions. And with that, all those in favor? None opposed, carried, received as information at this time. Economic Development, proposed purchase 478, 484 Dundas Street. Looking for motion? Counselor Lauder,
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council authorize the mayor and clerk to sign an agreement of purchase and sale with the owner of 478 and 484 Dundas Street, and further that the necessary bylaws be passed.
thank you. Seconder, Counselor Schadenberg, discussion? Counselor Wheaton. Counselor Lauder first, thank you, as a mover.
Just through the mayor to Mr. Magyar, could you give a report on this purchase?
Sorry. Your worship through to the question. Yes, so what we have before council tonight is a report to acquire the TriStar liquidation property at 478, 484 Dundas Street. This is a property that municipality has been looking at for quite a while. We've been in negotiations. I won't say for an extended period, but it was a little complicated because it wasn't just acquiring the property. We actually were acquiring, we had to make provision for winding down the business as well. So what this does is this basically allows the municipality to have a contiguous piece of property right from City Hall all the way over to Museum Square. This property was the piece that was kind of in the middle. So it gives us a lot of opportunities for future programming, for capital works in the Museum Square and that sort of thing. So significant piece of property in terms of acquisition, but tremendous opportunities for the municipality going forward. As we look at possible expansion of City Hall as well, it probably gives us some additional opportunities to move to the west. So there's a lot of opportunities that this acquiring this property provides. So hopefully council will approve this tonight.
Thank you. And I just want to thank you and Mr. Hammond for all of the work that went into getting to this stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Wheaton.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. Through you, I am nothing if not consistent in my messaging on this, and so I'll ask the question on what the financing details would be if the full amount were to be debentured or to issued in debt, what the term would be, the rate, interest rate, and the impact of interest rate in 2024, because I've done my own calculations. But yes, I'd love to hear the numbers from the expert and what that interest would look like in 2024.
Your worship, through to the council's question. At this point, we are doing the bylaw to debenture the full amount, just so that the approval is there in the event we need it. We will look at alternate financing, potentially the hydro building when it's sold. I actually don't have the current interest rate, although the last time I got one, I think it was about 4.5%. Doesn't always move based on the prime rate, so I can get a new number, but I don't have that at the moment, and it would definitely be a 20-year, yes.
So to follow up on that, I used my trusty amortization calculator that will give similar numbers to what your more accurate numbers would be. My calculations would that it would be $123,000 worth of interest in the first year, and over 20 years would be $1.45 million in interest, bringing the purchase of this property to just over $4.4 million in total cost. I understand the vision for Market Square. I have to speak on behalf of residents who are just struggling to put food on the table and pay their water bill right now, that this purchase is a nice to have and not necessarily a need to have. Clean water is a need to have, snow removal is a need to have, fire services are a need to have. This is a nice to have. And so I just want to raise my concern over the purchase price and the overall cost to the resident on this project.
Thank you. Counselor Leatherbrow.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just acknowledging my colleagues' comments. I understand the hesitancy with any price tag. I had similar hesitancies with another project, given the time, but I do see the long game with this. I just kind of scribbled down capital. I forget which term you used there, but capital benefits downtown, expansion, all of those types of things. So I'm really sticking with this one on the vision, but I do commend you for being consistent and thoughtful.
Thank you. Any other questions or thoughts? No, then I'm just gonna add that I'm excited by this. What I'm very happy with the landowner. Everything was extremely amicable. There is a long-term retirement plan in place for them. So this is a few years down the road. They're gonna have lots of opportunity to sell off product and continue on business as is for a couple of years. And really thank them for, being willing to talk and look at the long range and to the benefit of the city of Woodstock, because I do agree with Councillor Leatherborough that as long-term thoughts of downtown, as well as the city needs, as far as City Hall is concerned and everything else, I think this is an incredible opportunity that we're very lucky to have right now, to be honest. So, and with that, if there's nothing else, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Next up, we have 14E2, proposed sale of city-owned industrial land. Looking for a motion. Councillor Schaumburg, seconded by Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
The Woodstock City Council authorized the mayor and clerk to sign an agreement of purchase and sale with 2499364 Ontario Inc., known as DLH Carriers Inc.
Thank you. I would ask Mr. Magyar to speak to this motion, as we have noticed an error in it since production, or since this went forward.
Yeah, thank you, your worship. So I guess just to give a little bit of background, what we're looking at here is selling two small parcels to DHL carriers. So it will help facilitate a development to the east of what we're selling them. The one thing I should point out is my math skills were not very good when I wrote this report. I think I indicated that the price is $572,000. It's actually going to be closer to about $247,000. There may be some adjustment to that when the final survey is completed, because there's always some adjustment. But I wanted to make council aware of that. With this particular proposal, what it will allow them to do is to bring trucks, because they're building a truck terminal to the east of these lands. They'll be able to bring trucks in off of County Road 4 and take them out through the back onto Griffin Way. So from their perspective, it will create a much safer site as opposed to having trucks going in and out. That flow may change a little bit once they get into final layouts, but from their perspective, it creates a lot of good for them in terms of safety, and we think it will create a lot of good, not just on their site, but in that area in terms of traffic. So it's a little bit unusual, because when they were doing some of their preliminary layouts, if you look at the sketch, part B in particular is a triangle, which I call the notch, is a portion of our stormwater pond berm. So they will acquire that and of course have to build it back to the city engineer's satisfaction. So the storm pond will still continue to work as it is, so there won't be any issue there. But we will have some satisfaction in terms of how how that area develops. And as I say, the city engineer will have some involvement to make sure that the pond is maintained to our satisfaction.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions to council with that explanation? I'm assuming the mover and seconder have no objections with that as well, with this new information, just to be clear? No? Okay. In that case, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Carried. Clerk's Department, we do have proclamation and community flag raising policies. Counselor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council approve updates to council policy GA 002 proclamations and GA 012 raising of community flags and lowering flags to half mast.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder for this? Counselor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion. Counselor Wheaton.
I just want to say I appreciate the amount of detail that has gone into this to kind of beef up this policy. I can't remember who made the original motion to have this looked at. Can't remember. I feel like it was me, but it might not have been. It was certainly a high priority for me to see this policy looked at. I'll phrase it that way. And I just think it adds additional clarity for the head of council as requests come in. It takes away some of the guesswork and some of the questions that might be raised. So to those that put the effort into crafting and updating this bylaw, my appreciation. Policy, sorry.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? No, seeing none. Okay, well, I definitely believe the community should continue to not discriminate and support all the worthwhile causes that we do. With this formal policy, I believe this really sets that stage for that, and welcome all of staff that did work with us and thank them for their work. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Carried. Nothing from the CAO's office, Human Resources, but we do have a Fire Services report. 14I1, looking for a motion. Counselor Leatherborough, seconded by Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council approve the increase of minimum staffing within the Woodstock Fire Department's suppression division from 8 to 9 effective September 27th, 2023.
Thank you. Discussion? Of course, Chief is still here from our earlier proclamation. If there's a question of staff, I'm sure he would be willing. Counselor Sandberg.
Yeah, from the mayor through to our chief, Jeff Slager, if he'd be able to maybe explain some of the parameters surrounding the staffing that we currently have at the city of Woodstock and the necessity. I did talk to our CIO, David Curry, for a while this afternoon, and I'm not saying it was clear as mud, but I think it just needs to be reinforced for everybody that's watching this to be able to understand what's the difference between 8 suppression officers, 9 suppression officers, and other things that come along the way, like somebody being on holidays, for example.
Your worship, through to Councillor Schadenberg's question. So as council remember, we presented a staffing report in February of this year in 2023, laying out kind of the foundation for our move from our current staffing levels that we have as we move towards a goal of 10 firefighters as our minimum staff. The addition of bodies available at a minimum. So right now, to refresh everyone's memory, we operate with 12 firefighters on a platoon. We allow 2 of them to book scheduled time off, either from vacation use or otherwise. And then we have a buffer of 2 people to get down to our minimum staffing of 8 for those that might have an intermittent illness and that type of thing. So we will be able to function during the day with 8 firefighters on our suppression apparatus to respond to the incident that we have here in the city. The goal is to follow kind of the recommendations that the Office of the Fire Marshal has put out to get to a minimum of 10 with her. That does allow us to have additional bodies on scene to go through the myriad of jobs that are required at the different types of incidents. We do have a very unique job in the sense that it's not standard. Every call is handled the same way. Each incident is different and unique. And the more personnel that we have there to be able to address it is a benefit for us. By going to this move, we don't make, as referenced in the report, we are not making any other changes to the availability of scheduled time off or the buffer of 2 people for intermittent illnesses. This just allows us to bring on board the additional firefighters that council, we were very grateful, approved in the operating budget to add on. So now we're at 13 firefighters on a shift, and we'll be able to have the 9 there instead, still with the 4 people of a buffer.
Counselor Schoenberg.
Just as a follow-up based maybe on an illness or an injury or whatever like that, if you ever got down to say 7 suppression officers, what would the cost generally be to bring in somebody for overtime hours to be able to sort of fill the gap?
Your worship, through to the question. It depends on what position is needed and which rank that the officer or the firefighter coming in holds at the time. So anybody coming in for the 12 or 24-hour shift to cover that is at time and a half at the overtime. If it's a captain's rate, they are, now again, a set, obviously they're going to be paid at a much higher rate than our probationary firefighters right now. There's a difference of, if we look at it, of I believe it's probably 66% difference between those 2 positions. So I can't put a defined number or value on that. We do have a process as far as who is offered the overtime based on what their current number is or what they've got there. So even there, I can't say who would be made available and what their rank or rate would be, unfortunately.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for the chief while he's here? Thank you very much. I did have a seconder on that, right? Right? Yes. Thank you. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Nothing from Public Works or IT tonight. Nothing for Special Committee Advisory Task Force reports, but we do have a notice of motion. Councillor Leatherborough.
Whereas the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing has requested that the mayor of the city of Woodstock commit in writing by October 15th, 2023 to meet the provincially assigned target of 5,500 new homes in Woodstock by 2031. And whereas this commitment will make Woodstock eligible for possible access to the Building Faster Fund if a minimum annual target is met. And whereas this commitment will also activate strong mayor powers in the city of Woodstock effective October 31st, 2023. And whereas the province has provided minimal clarity as to eligible expenses funded by the Building Faster Fund and how municipal progress will be tracked. And whereas Woodstock City Council recognizes the current housing crisis locally and across the province and has actively supported planning applications to build more homes and increase residential density. And whereas the Building Faster Fund and strong mayor powers do not ensure housing affordability for residents or other critical infrastructure and services required to support a growing and thriving community. And whereas the enactment of strong mayor powers associated with this commitment could potentially harm the democratic process and deter future municipal candidates from serving the community. And whereas strong mayor powers do not align with council's strategic plan and strategic priorities, and whereas Woodstock City Council does not support the use of strong mayor powers. Now therefore it be resolved that prior to the mayor signing a commitment in writing by October 15th, 2023, the mayor be requested to publicly outline the intentions of the use of strong mayor powers in writing to ensure transparency to the residents and taxpayers of the city of Woodstock.
Okay. Thank you. We will be discussing this at our next meeting, October 5th, and have the debate then. Okay, thank you. Next up, new business. Moved by Councillor Wismer Van Meer, second by Councillor Wheaton. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Whereas there is an increased number of individuals experiencing homelessness in our community, and whereas providing safe and accessible location for support services is crucial for these individuals and for our community. And whereas Woodstock City Council established the Mayor's Social Wellbeing Task Force and a Community and Social Wellbeing Reserve Fund in 2023 in order to support initiatives that accelerate solutions to housing, mental health, safety, and addiction issues in our community. And whereas the County of Oxford has contributed $50,000 in funding to provide security services at Operation Sharing Shelter locations in order to support the continued provision of support services. Now therefore be resolved that Woodstock City Council approves $50,000 from the Community and Social Wellbeing Reserve Fund in order to support additional security services at Operation Sharing Operation Sharing Shelter locations, so services can continue to be provided in a safe and accessible manner.
Thank you. Discussion? Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
I'm just going to read a quick thing that I received from Executive Director Sean Shapton. I did speak with him on this and asked if I could have his input on this. I can speak for myself as to the fact that a safe environment for everybody in our community is important, but I wanted these words to come from the people that are part of this location. Due to the significant growth and changing landscape of homelessness here in Woodstock, with many individuals struggling with mental health and addiction, in an effort to ensure staff and guests have the best opportunity to succeed in a safe environment, we respectfully ask Woodstock City Council to support a decision to add security to all shelter programs here in Woodstock. Operation Sharing has successfully integrated the 24/7 shelter model across 3 locations here in Woodstock, adding a valuable service that is vital to create a safe place for individuals experiencing homelessness or shelter insecurity. The security schedule at each location will look like day space which is at College Ave United Church from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday to Friday. Weekend day space located at CMHA TVA 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. for Saturday and Sunday, and the inn located at Old St. Paul's Anglican Church 7 days a week, 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. I think that these funds are here for a reason. That's why this mayor's task force has been created. I think that these funds, this is something that's desperately needed right now. We're doing a disservice to our community as a whole if we overlook security at these locations. I mean, I walk into retail locations within our city and there's security there. So for everybody's safety and for the security of the staff and those that are using these facilities, I really hope that council will support this.
Thank you. Counselor Wheaton, I believe, was next.
Thank you, Mayor Atrioni. I'm fully supportive of this motion, happy to second it. When I met with Executive Director Sean Shapton, probably 2 weeks ago, we had a really candid conversation about how the landscape is changing at the day space and at the shelter. And as he made a presentation to Safe and Well Oxford last week, there is a desperate need to ensure the safety, as Councillor Wismer Van Meer indicated, the safety of staff and guests at the inn, the day space and CMHA. I'm delighted that we get the opportunity to partner with the county to meet this need. $50,000 coming from both levels, I hope it demonstrates to the community our commitment to meeting the needs of our homeless community, and that this, in my opinion, shows a great deal of leadership at both levels. So my thanks to the task force. I know that it's not probably easy to sit on that committee. I'm sure that you deal with a lot of really heavy issues. So my appreciation to those who serve on that task force and bringing this forward to us for consideration.
Thank you. Counselor Schadenberg.
I guess my first question is just for clarification, just trying to figure out the numbers. The task force and community and social wellbeing reserve fund was $150,000. In essence, 50,000 has been being spent. But was that 150,000? Was that just for the calendar year 2023 or beyond 2023?
That, if I may, that 150,000 was for 2023 in the budget. That was included. So we used $50,000, if council recalls, month and a half ago, I want to say roughly, we approved that for encampment cleanups and assorted materials, PPE. And this is another 50,000 next, which would leave us with $50,000 still available to the public, to any organizations that are out there that may recognize some assistance that the city can help, and we encourage them to come forward. And of course, we'll always bring it back here for council consideration. Does that answer that?
Yes, but as a continuation, I guess, if the city of Woodstock were to supply 50,000 from our fund, and I do believe very much in security and policing, et cetera, and then our security and safety and policing, as far as assistance goes, for these associations. But if the county's already put 50,000 towards it, is $100,000 in theory possibly too much when the Salvation Army is not included on that list for their food services programs that they do still from their location on Huron Street, for them not to be on their list? Because I know they certainly have some safety issues there with their employees and volunteers.
Again, I'll just answer that. If Salvation Army feels a need that we can help with the mayor's task force, again, we'll welcome anybody to come forward and again, discuss it there. And of course, if we feel there's need, we'd bring it forward. But at this point, I'm not familiar with anything Salvation Army has brought forward, and operation sharing has definitely been leaning this way. And I did have a meeting earlier this week with Executive Director Shapton and made it very clear that this is needed.
I guess my question was only be is how many security guards or whatever do we get for $100,000 for 3 months, October, November, December, to take us to the end of this calendar year? And then we would start January 1st, assuming that our operating budget hasn't been confirmed by January 1st, and it won't be, then do we have to come forward with something on January 1st to continue a program before we've approved the 2024 operating budget?
Well, as of right now, this is a one-time towards this to get the security going. Anything moving forward beyond that would have to be brought forward again for discussion. My understanding right now is it would be 2 security guards during those timeframes. Okay, 7 days a week. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I certainly support this resolution. We put the $150,000 aside for this to be spent on what the task force thought was important. And I really do think that this $50,000 of that is well spent in keeping the safety of these locations. And because everyone needs to feel safe in their work environment. So I certainly support this.
Thank you. And I feel I should let council know that we have not brought this particular item to the task force. Our meeting is actually tomorrow morning for the task force. We will be letting them know based on council decision on this money. The reason why we're doing this is simply for timing. Because if we waited for a meeting tomorrow, we'd have to wait till October 5th, vote on it and everything else. And the need's immediate. So I hope council understands why that is happening, but we will ensure that the task force is well aware, and I don't foresee any issues with that as well. Okay. So with that, any other questions or comments? Call the vote. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Next up, we have draft bylaws. Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Lauder that the following bylaws be given a first and second reading. 9627-23, a bylaw to amend the City of Woodstock Municipal Code, Chapter 153, Property Standards Officers Appointments. 9628-23, a bylaw to amend the City of Woodstock Municipal Code, Chapter 127, Municipal Bylaw Enforcement Officer. 9629-23, a bylaw to opt out of the vacant unit rebate program under Section 364 of the Municipal Act 2001. 9630-23, a bylaw to provide for the financing of the purchase of 478484 Dundas Street. And 9631-23, a bylaw to provide for the purchase of certain lands owned by AG Suva Inc. In the City of Woodstock.
Thank you. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed, carried. Counselor Wheaton.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Leatherbarrow that the following bylaws be given a third and final reading. 9627-23, 9628-23, 9629-23, 9630-23, 9631-23.
Thank you. Discussion? Last chance. All those in favor? So carried. None opposed. And with that, we will finish up and we usually start, let's go with Councillor Schadenberg tonight.
Just a reminder that doors open Woodstock is on Saturday. Saturday, September 23rd is going to be a busy, busy day, that's for sure. Knox Church is one of the places on the list from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Of course, the museum's on the list, the public library is, Brick House Brew Pub, which actually doesn't open until 11 a.m. White Law Machinery, that's got to be one of the oldest running businesses in the city of Woodstock, dating back to about 1860. Habitual Chocolate, Real Treats, so many great places to go check out. Real Treats is interesting just because of the historical significance of the building itself on Dundas Street. So stores open Woodstock. Reminder on Saturday, September 23rd at 1:30 is the Woodstock Sports Wall of Fame at Golf Hall. There'll be 7 inductees, essentially Derek Couch, Tom Arnott, Peter Ferguson, Karen Hansen, Alita Kingswood, Amanda Nelson, and a WCI basketball and volleyball, kind of a combined team from 1991, all inducted. Just a reminder that Saturday, September 30th, Oxford Pink Ribbon Challenge. That's a basketball game featuring McMaster University against Fanshawe. It's at St. Mary's High School. The game on Saturday, September 30th, tip-off is 2 p.m. Fundraiser or proceeds going to the Canadian Cancer Society. So anything to do with the Canadian Cancer Society, I certainly want to plug. But there's also going to be 4 high school games. 2 on Friday night beginning at 6 p.m., 2 on Saturday beginning at 9 a.m. And that's all for women's or female basketball coming to the city of Woodstock. Last thing I want to mention is congratulations. 4th overall pick, Ella Shelton to New York in the draft for the PWHL earlier this week. And that's terrific news for her. Of course, she's an Olympic champion and a world champion for Team Canada in hockey. And she's grew up in Foldens, but went to St. Mary's High School in Woodstock.
Thank you. Next up, we're going to mess things up and go to Councillor Leatherbarrow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm sure staff noticed, but I will be asking for a little bit more meat and potatoes at these meetings in terms of reports. So I hope you don't mind if I call on you just to give a summary for the public. I do appreciate it. So I just wanted to throw that in there. And I'm sure Taste of Art will be talked about, but that's this coming Saturday. I know it's sold out, but I'm so excited to participate and to see everybody there. And in line with downtown, next Thursday, the Woodstock Shopping Nights will resume, fall edition. So various businesses downtown Woodstock will be open late with a variety of options. And to keep it short, because I took up enough time, my brother's visiting from Alberta and I'm looking forward to spending time with him. And he is a wine sommelier, so I believe he will provide some good tastes and conversation. Yeah.
So what time shall we be there? Next up, Councillor Lauder. Really messed things up tonight.
You are. Thank you. I'd just like to brag about our state-of-the-art hospital right here in Woodstock. We are one of 7 in Canada to have a new piece of technology that will help surgeons with complex knee and hip replacement surgeries. The first operation using this technology was used on Tuesday. As stated by our hospital CEO, Perry Lang, he believes that embracing cutting-edge technology is paramount in providing the best possible care to our community. And construction for the Woodstock Nonprofit Board Affordable Housing Project on Southwood Way has started. There's leveling the ground and hoping to get the foundation in before winter. And so we're looking forward to that. And then the rest of it will be completed next year unless we have an open winter. And I know I've been advertising the Taste of Art for a long time. And because of that, I'm sure that's why the sales have been filled. And so I will see you there. I'm going to be volunteering and meet and greet. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Counselor Wheaton.
I know, it's true. Thank you, Mayor Accioni. Huge shout out to Linda Plank for winning the by-election in Norwich Township last night. I'm personally pleased with this outcome. I think it'll bring a positive voice to that council. Yeah, go get them. Taste of Art, can't wait. 20 vendors are lined up, food and beverage, and they all look exceptional, and I can hardly wait to graze. We will see many of you there, and the Sports Wall of Fame ceremony on Saturday. So I'm sure you just said it, 1 p.m. 1:30?
Yeah, doors open at 1:30.
Okay.
Of course, Bernie is on our Recreation Advisory Committee, so as well.
So she should know
So
the
she
answer
should-
to that question.
No, she should be there. And we look forward to seeing her on Saturday. And the mayor, of course.
Thank you. Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Yeah, I've had a really busy week and a really busy weekend ahead. Big Brothers Big Sisters, we've been celebrating Big Brothers Big Sisters month. We had our open house thanks to Mayor, oh goodness, Mayor Accioni for coming out. We have our big car show on Sunday at Canadian Tire in Woodstock. 300 to 400 cars typically come to this event. It's huge. We have a free kids area as well, thanks to our sponsors that make that possible. So the weather is looking good this year for us, fingers crossed. So come out with your family. It's a really fun day, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Tomorrow night, I'm going to see the Birds and the Bees at Theatre Woodstock. I'm super excited. The playwright of that production was actually in Woodstock last weekend to see it. And one of my friends was sitting behind him and she was like, this person in front of me just laughed outrageously, like couldn't hold it together. Turns out it's the playwright, and he made a comment that even though he wrote that production and has seen it as many times as he has, he said that this is by far the best one he's seen. So if that doesn't tell you to go buy your tickets and go and see it, there are still tickets available for this weekend. I will be at Doors Open. I'm going to be at Real Treats from 1 to 4. I'm volunteering there Saturday, so I won't be at the Sports Wall of Fame, sorry, but I will be down there. So hang out with me at Real Treats and please keep me under control that I don't eat all the candy. And just a quick reminder, because we won't be back before this time, but of course, September 30th is Truth and Reconciliation Day. It is much more than just wearing an orange shirt. We need to really start listening. We need to start taking action and stop making this about words and wearing a shirt and just being a part of something, a movement. There's some great activities taking place in Ingersoll. ISAN, ISAN is a really great organization, local organization. I encourage you to check out their Facebook page, Instagram page. Their third March for Truth and Reconciliation is next Saturday, September 30th. They have a full schedule of events going on that day. So I encourage you to just go and check that out. And just to note, there will be a flag raising at the Oxford County Admin Building on September 25th for them as well.
Thank you. Some of the things that were not covered then. United Way campaign kickoff was this evening. Councillor Wismer Van Meer and I attended that a little bit earlier, just before this. Please give generously. I spoke very briefly, and it's either give time of yourself as in volunteering any way you can. And of course, if you can financially donate as well, all appreciated. And of course, both would be greatly appreciated. This weekend is a very busy weekend. I don't have the number. I believe it was 11 or 12 invites this weekend. Between everything going on, a couple that were not mentioned as well. Obviously, Sports Wall of Fame, and I will be there in attendance before Councillor Schattenberg, looks at me funny. But there's Oxford Community Energy Cooperation. There's a 10-year anniversary that's being held. Oxford Historical Society, I will be there in attendance. It's their 125th anniversary. So that's a pretty big one. Of course, I'll be at Taste of Art a little later on that evening as well. I'm really excited for that event. Big Brothers Big Sisters Car Show, of course, will be attending, me and car shows. Can't wait. I guess the point being for the community is get out, explore, and enjoy. There is so much going on. And I'm so proud of this council because we do such a great job of covering so many things here and by attendance as well as bringing them up. But for those watching at home and when you're talking to friends and family and there's nothing worse than I hear of there's nothing to do in Woodstock. Well, I will disagree with you there because there is always something going on and we welcome you. We'll also mention we are having our safe consumption site meeting, a CTS site, special council meeting on Tuesday. If you'd like to speak as a delegation, remind everyone you do have to put in a delegation request by noon tomorrow here at City Hall. There is on the website, you can find the link and apply to be a delegation. There are quite a number. I'll warn council now. We do have quite a few signed up already. I will ask that we're going to do it as a council meeting, so be prepared, everyone. We will have an agenda and everything laid out, and we'll speak with everyone before they present. With that, we're going to, I'm assuming, listen to for and against, of course. So we'll have the opportunity to speak to the delegation if you have questions as well. So be prepared. And lastly, I want to give a big thoughts go out to our deputy CAO and our city clerk, Amy Humphreys. She gave me permission to share that she lost her mother today, quite suddenly. So our thoughts do go out to her and her entire family during this very tough time. Thanks, of course, to the deputy clerk for stepping up in her place. Jackie will be missed, and just to the entire family, just know thoughts and prayers are there. Okay, and with that, I'd like a motion to adjourn. Councillor Wheaton, second by Councillor Leatherborough. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Good night, everyone.